Hello and welcome to Relatively Crafty, a knitting podcast. I'm your host, Christy. I come to you from the Denver area of Colorado, where I live with my husband, Ron, our two daughters, Tatum and Delaney, our tuxedo kitty, Lilu, and our Podango puppy, Sophie. Welcome. If you are new here, this is a knitting podcast. I talk about knitting and things that I have recently purchased and things that I am looking forward to knitting and stuff that's happened in our life and all of that kind of stuff. So today is April 23rd. I have survived yet another tax season. Well, I don't actually do taxes because I never really had much desire to get my CPA. I do work closely with our tax team and get the financials ready for my clients to have their taxes done. And so the tax deadlines aren't quite as big of a deal for me as they are for the tax team, but they still are kind of a big deal. So now that we have made it through the tax deadline for the year, things can kind of calm down a little bit more, and we won't ramp up again until it comes time to file the ones that got extended, of which there were many. But anyway, so yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the things that I have finished. I have finished a couple of things, mostly socks, lately, and unfortunately, I don't have all of them with me. I knit some things on vacation with for my aunt and for my mom and my brother, and so those things just got passed on to them, so I don't have them to show you, but I do have some pictures, so I can do that. Let's see, I think that, well, let's start with this hat. I knit this hat for my brother right before we left. We went on a trip to New York. My oldest daughter, Tatum, got just the most amazing opportunity to sing at Carnegie Hall with her choir, her school choir, and so they did this whole trip with the school. And normally, you know, last year the school trip, the choir tour was to Disneyland, and we didn't follow them there because, you know, we've been to Disneyland many times, having grown up in Southern California, and so there wasn't a whole lot of need for that. But when you find out that your kid is going to sing at Carnegie Hall, you don't want to miss that opportunity. So all of us went. Myself, my husband Ron, our other daughter Delaney, my parents, my aunt, my mom's sister, my uncle, my mom's brother who lives in California flew out and met with us, and then my brother. So there were 8 of us going around New York, and it was quite a whirlwind of a trip. And so I didn't get a whole lot of knitting done on the trip, but I did knit this hat for my brother before we left. It is knit out of NS exclamation point textile sport in space cookies, and it's just the basic hat that I knit for him regularly, and he has worn it a couple of times. I don't know if it's quite right because it looks to me like it's not a sport weight yarn, and in fact I can show you. Here is the leftovers. It really looks like it's thicker, more like a DK. I thought it was a DK, so I knit it as if it were worsted, and I knit it double. So the nice thing is that the hat came out modeled really well because I was knitting it held double, and so there was no pulling or flashing, which was perfect. But I think that the gauge was kind of weird. So anyway, I also finished a couple of pairs of socks. So, well, first I'll show you, I knit this pair for my mom. This is out of Canon Hand Dyes in, let's see, It's her William Merino fingering in green gradient twins. So it came with two balls that were 50 grams each, and they were dyed to match perfectly and to be a gradient. And so I knit one sock out of one ball and then wound the other one going the opposite way and knit the second sock. So they are polar opposites of each other. I obviously did get some flashing with this one, which is totally fine. I think it looks kind of cool on the leg. Mom had an outfit that she wanted to wear these with, so I went ahead and gave her the socks. And so she has been enjoying those. I did knit, I had another set of this kind of yarn that was out of white, not white iris, white birch fiber arts. White birch and Cannon hand dyes used to tour together and do shows together. And I've known Amy of Cannon hand dyes for years and years. We were friends on Ravelry before either of us were anybody, when we were still kind of new to the whole knitting scene, and she hadn't even started dyeing and I hadn't started podcasting, and so I found out that she was coming to Loveland, to the Yarn Fest, the Interweave Yarn Fest, and just loved the opportunity to go and say hi to her real quick each year. And she used to travel, as I said, with White Birch Fiber Arts, who makes some really cool stripy sock yarn. And so in touring together and kind of, their businesses were separate, but they were kind of collaborating with things. They would do similar dye techniques. And so Amy did the green gradient twins, and White Birch, I can't remember her name, did this gradient twin. And so I fell in love with both of them. Of course, these colors are so my style. So I went ahead and knit this pair of socks for myself, and you can see that I did the same thing with my mom's, where I knit it polar opposite. And I just loved the colors in this so much that I went ahead and took the leftovers, because there was 50 grams each, and I thought, well, if I put contrasting here toes and heels, I should be able to get a second pair of socks out. I did not gauge it quite right, so I did get a second pair of socks, but I had to, it was more than just the toes. As you can see, I had to kind of start that way up here, whereas the toe kind of starts right here. I had to start bringing in that contrast color quite a bit earlier. So these are Rose City rollers, and I knit this pair with my normal recipe, a Turkish toe cast on. This is a Fish Lips Kiss Heel, a 1x1 ribbing with Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, whereas this one is a top down sock with a heel flapping gusset, and then I think it's called a wedge toe, just a regular sock toe. And you can see that I also did these, well, maybe a little bit harder to see because there was a lot of the same color in these, but I did them polar opposite as well. And so I have a pair of shorty socks and a pair of full socks. I used up all of it, obviously, and I love how they turned out. And yeah, so these gradients are just so pleasant to knit, really. Both of these pairs of socks, or all three of these pairs of socks, were very enjoyable. So anyway, I got those pairs done. I have one more pair of socks. It's starting to warm up, although you wouldn't know it to look outside right now. We had snow last night, not last night, the night before. So we woke up on Saturday with snow on the ground. But it is starting to warm up, and that means that I need some shorty socks, and I never seem to have enough shorty socks, and I need them in different colors, and I needed something that I could travel with, so I cast on another pair of Rose City rollers. And here they are. Now this is out of Leading Men Fiber Arts, which is one of my favorite sock indie dyers, because they do 50-gram put-ups, and I just love their colorways. So, so yeah, I have these finished. This is Leading Men Fiber Arts. As I said, the colorway is called Smell My Feet. You guys might recall I picked this up at Yarn Fest last year, and I knit it while I was at Yarn Fest this year, so it worked out nicely. I like to knit things that are in my stash. I love to buy yarn, don't get me wrong. You will see that when I show you all the other things that I picked up at Yarn Fest. But there's also something to be said about knitting things that are in your stash. It's nice. So yeah, just the basic Rose City roller pattern. It is, I either do this or I do the Tabby Tug socks by Mindy Asplin. I can't think of the person who wrote this pattern. You'll have to excuse me. But it's called Rose, like the flower, city, like the city, and rollers, like roller skates. Yeah, so those two are my pattern of choice for shorty socks. I'm trying to knit a couple of more of these. I find that the heel flap and gusset fit so nicely when it comes to shorty socks. I love the look of the Tabby Tug, but I do find that as the socks kind of stretch out, they get a little slippy slidey, and will sometimes slide down on certain shoes. So yeah. So yeah, that is the only other thing that I finished. So not a whole lot of exciting things done, but good things, right? And now that I've finally talked to you guys about them, I can put them in my closet and start wearing them. So that is all that I finished. I do have some works in progress. So as I mentioned, I have been working on shorty socks lately. The current sock that I'm working on is no different. It is another pair of Rose City rollers, also out of Leading Men Fiber Arts. And here it is. The colorway is Welcome to the Jungle. It's a lovely green. So nothing super exciting about them, but I am enjoying them. As you can see, I am mostly done with the first sock, so I'll be working on that and finishing up the second sock. I did go to Yarn Fest just last weekend, and so I've picked up more Leading Men Fiber Arts Showstopper intermissions. That's what I net these out of. The Showstopper is my favorite of their sock bases. It's an 80-20 blend, and then their intermission is a 50-gram put-up. 50 grams is more than enough to knit a pair of Rose City rollers or Tabby Tug socks. For my feet, I wear a size 8 in women's, and cast on 62 stitches, or 64 stitches, excuse me, like normal. And with this pair, I had a little over 6 grams left, so that gives you an idea of whether or not you can do them for you. I have one other work in progress, and that is my mom's sweater, and I'm so close to getting it finished, and I'm so excited about it being done. This is Arco Iris by Joji Locatelli. Here is what I've got. So you can see I am on the bottom hem. I've got a couple of inches of, there's a cabling pattern on this hem. You can see it in, it's the same cabling pattern as what's here, and then what is also on the sleeves. And I am ready for this to be done. It has been a process. I have enjoyed most of it. But there's some things I just got kind of a little bored with knitting a plain white or cream sweater, undyed sweater, and then, and while I say that, I don't really like the mottled look with the colors. So I've knit this out of some undyed, heavily sparkly yarn. Dagnabbit. So it was initially some Bigfoot Fiber Arts that I had picked up in, and the colorway was Cotton Headed Ninny. Yeah, Cotton Headed Ninny. It was on of her advent calendar. But I didn't have enough, and so, because I only had the one skein, and then I had a bunch of these sparkly minis that I had also gotten from Bigfoot Fiber Arts. So I contacted her. Unfortunately, she's no longer dying, and so I then went searching for a supplier, and I got it from AC Wood Limited. There is the tag. So you can see it's 75% extra fine merino, 20% nylon, and 5% lurex, which is the sparkly bit. And I bought, since it was undyed, I got it for a very good price. I picked up one skein at one retailer, and then found a bag of 5 at another retailer. So then I had 7. And I decided to go ahead and hold it double, because it's a fingering weight yarn, and so I'm knitting it as if it was a DK weight yarn, and I'm making Arco Iris. And I had all these colors. I was originally going to do like stripes, but Mom she wasn't too keen on the idea, and she only liked a couple of the colors, and so I suggested doing a mottled, holding one strand of the undyed and then one strand of the colored, and getting a mottled look. And she seemed keen on that, so she chose the 3 colors, and I've done, one for the neck, one for the sleeves, and then the final one for the hem, which I am only a couple of rows into. But yeah, it just got a little tedious knitting something that had no color. There was, even a semi-solid has some variation, and so there's something to change, and I just kind of got a little bored. But I am rounding home base at this point, or I guess rounding third at this point, so I'm getting close. I've just got to do I think it's four repeats of the 4-row pattern, and I think I'm 1 repeat in, so not too much further. I should finish it this weekend. You probably won't see it like this again. I'll probably give it to my mom as soon as it's finished and take a picture of her in it, so you'll see it on her. But yeah, I am keen on that because I really want to get started on some summer sweaters, and I can't as long as Mom's sweater is hanging over my head. So it's time for it to be complete. Speaking of sweaters, I am wearing my Blue Sands cardigan, which I knit out of Volmaiza DK, and I was just looking at it. I wore it to church. This is how I dressed for church. We have a very laid-back church. And I was looking at it, sitting there, and I was like, you know what? I love this sweater. I wear it all the time. I should make another one. And so I was looking through my stash later on and seeing if I have anything in there that would work for it. And I do, so I might just do that. We'll see. But that's not a summer sweater. I want to knit a summer sweater, but I do have things that that have recently come into my home that I also want to knit right away. But let me tell you, upstairs I have some yarn that I have set aside to make a summer sweater. I have some Wollmeise Pure in Grasshopper, grasshopper in German, Grasshopper, and it looks like this. And I am going to use that along with some other little minis in Wollmeise that I've collected over the years. I've had this stuff in my stash for, gosh, ever. Yeah, 2010. So 13 years this stuff has been sitting in my stash. And I've wanted to knit it into something, and I've gone back and forth, but I think I finally decided that I'm going to knit the Daisy Lady by Stephanie Lotfin. And I'm just going to make it all out of the green of the grasshopper, and then along the chest area, that's where I will put all the different colors. And so I'm not going to change the color on the shoulders. It'll be the same going up, but yeah. I did start it a couple of weeks ago, several weeks ago, and then realized, because it's a bottom-up sweater, that I had done a rookie mistake and twisted the stitches when I joined in the round instead of keeping it untwisted, and so I was making a Mobius, so I had to tear that out. There's no way to fix it, unfortunately. You just have to tear it out. So, and that kind of discouraged me, so I was like, well, let me finish Mom's sweater. I wasn't supposed to be knitting a sweater for myself anyway. I was supposed to be knitting my mom's sweater, so I have buckled down to finish my mom's sweater, and am very close to that. So I have that upstairs, and I do hope to get that going here pretty soon. But as I said, I went to Loveland for the Yarn Fest. Amy at Cannon Hand Dyes is my friend, as I mentioned before, and now that she is no longer traveling with White Birch Fiber Arts, she is having to set up her booth all by herself, whereas they used to like do it together as a team and kind of help each other out. She's doing it all on her own, and last year she asked if I could help with some of my local friends. My very good friend Beth and I went down there. We also brought the kids, my kids, and went down there and helped her out, and we were able to get a discount on her yarn. So it was great because we got to support her. We got to shop a lot at her booth. When you're putting everything up on the shelves and whatnot, you get to really see all the pretty colors. And then we were able to support her by buying her yarn as well. So that was a great experience, and I absolutely loved doing it. And this year she asked if we would be available again, and of course I was going to do that, because I just want to help her. I was expecting nothing in return. I just wanted to be able to help, but we got the same deal as we got last time, and so I was able to buy quite a lot of yarn from her. So she does, as I said, she's Cannon Hand Dyes, but she also owns Dragonfly Fibers. She bought it from the previous owner, and now dyes under both of those names. So I picked up some amazing things. So under the Dragonfly Fibers, I got this fade pack. These colors, guys, here, you have to see. These are amazing. Look at how beautiful those are. I'm just in love. So this is Traveler, which is her DK base. And the colorways are Spooky, Low Tide, Firecracker, and Blue Dream, this one. I absolutely love the way they fade. I cannot wait to knit them into something. I just need to find a pattern. But this is not a summer sweater, so I keep telling myself that I'm not going to touch this yet because I want to knit something that I can wear right now. and this isn't it, because this needs to be like a really pretty cardigan or something, and it needs to have long sleeves, and it needs to be something that I can wear all through the colder months, and we are going into May, so no colder months. Let's see what else. I got 4 skeins of this. This is also dragonfly fibers. Look at how pretty that is. It's giving all kinds of Halloween vibes. So this is in her Pixie base, which is 100% superwash merino. It's a single ply, and the colorway is Fire in the Evening, and this is an assigned pooling skein. As I said, I have 4 of them, and I'm going to make a sweater. Assigned pooling is kind of one of the newer-ish things that are happening. I think Chasing Rabbits, which is now, I think it's Barrett Wool. She apparently got a cease and desist because somebody else had Chasing Rabbits in their name, and so even though it had nothing to do with fiber, she had to change her name. So I think Barrett, I think it's Barrett Barclay. I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, so that it's basically their name now, their last name, and she's written a whole bunch of patterns on assigned pooling. Lots of shawls, which I didn't pay much attention to because I'm not a huge shawl knitter, but then I found that there are sweaters, and this sweater that I'm posting is super pretty, and I saw it. Amy had a sample. Amy's got amazing samples. Every time I see her booth, I'm like, ooh, I want to knit all of those things, because she's got all these great samples out of her colorways, and so she had that one, and I was like, yeah, I need to make that. And she was actually working on a new one out of this color, and it looked amazing. So basically what you do is every time you knit normal, and it's a sleeve to sleeve, side to side pattern. Every time that you get to the main color, the pop color, in this case it's the orange, you do a special stitch, and so it causes it to kind of pool in an interesting way, and I love it. So I'm gonna make that, but again, not a summer sweater. This one could almost qualify as a summer sweater. Let me see if I can bring up Barker wool. That's what it is. Dawn Barker, and the pattern is Llano, L-L-A-N-O. I don't know if that's supposed to be like llama, which is L-L-A-M-A, so if it's Llano, or if it's supposed to be like the double L in Spanish and be pronounced as a Y. But anyway, so that is the pattern I'm going to make with that. The other thing, the Elton Pullover, which is a pattern by Joji Locatelli, and I wouldn't have been drawn to this, but Amy had one, and she had it with a light cream, and then pink. So it's a kind of like the Tennis Lavely rocket tee, where it's you're offsetting with mohair and then the regular fingering weight, and so I got these. So I can't use words anymore. So this is also Pixie by Amy with dragonfly fibers. The colorway is Tarnished. I have 2 skeins in this kind of dark gray, and then I have this. This is Cannon hand dyes. It's an ombre cowl kit, but I thought I could use those to do my mohair and kind of fade it a little bit. So that's the plan for that. I still go back and forth because I loved Amy's. If I can find a picture, I'll post it. Hers is amazing because it has this like bright pink and cream for her main color, and it just looks so vibrant. This one's not going to quite be that vibrant, but we'll see. Another one that I saw at in Amy's booth was Le Pouf by Beata Jezik. And I fell in love with that. It's got poofy sleeves, but the Amy's sample didn't have poofy sleeves, but it was a gradient or a fade. And I basically said, okay, I need that exact one. So what colors did you use for that? And it was these colors. So this is also Pixie. And the colorway group is called Winter Woods. So it's a fade, and yeah, I'm super excited. Did you see how pretty this was? I mean, come on. So yeah, I'll be making that. Let's see, what else did I pick up? Well, let me say, so we went to help her set up her booth on Wednesday, and nothing was open yet. So we took the opportunity to go to the Loopy U, which has gone into a new storefront, still in Loveland, but wasn't going to miss an opportunity to check it out. And I found just the perfect yarn to make Shaved Ice by Casapinka. So I have all of these. I asked my friend Beth, I said, am I going to look like an Easter egg? And she goes, in the best way. So this is all Kama Rose Yaku. There are 4 colors there. I will use them. I have more than enough. I think I could have gotten away with a single skein on a couple of these colors, but I didn't want to run out and then not be able to get another one in the same dye lot. Plus, they were really well priced. This whole thing only cost like $60. So that is a summer sweater that I may end up starting pretty soon, because I just look at how pretty these are. I will post, if I can, the picture of the sample that they had at the Loopy U out of this yarn that I totally fell in love with. And I got several of the same colors. I think I got it. They had more of a pink, where I got a coral, and I think they had 2 greens, and I got this yellow instead. But yeah, this soon, super soon. And then lastly, I got, let's see, I got one more thing from Amy. No, I got a couple more things from Amy. I got one of her fall rainbow kits. These are just 5-gram minis, I think. Yeah, 5-gram minis. And I'm going to put them together with something to make a stripy something. I haven't quite decided. She had a pattern there that I really liked. I'm not sure if I'm going to make that. It was a Vera Valimaki pattern. It was, True Friend, which looks like this. So I'm not sure if that's what I'm going to make with it. It looked great. She used those colors and a gray. And instead, so the gray was the center block, and then she used the rainbow as the stripes. But I'm not sure yet if I'm sold on this pattern. It looked great in the sample, and I loved it, but I'm not sure I'm going to wear it. The sleeves, it's more of almost like a poncho, like a swancho, and I'm not sure if that will bother me, having those kind of low sleeves that, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Anyway, I did pick up a couple of sock skeins from Amy as well, because she makes just beautiful ones. So this is a Canon hand dye. It's in her Improvisations, which is just like a one-off. She didn't write down the recipe, so can't replace this. And look at those colors, right? And then I got this skein of Eos from her Mythology Club. This was the March skein for 2023, and I just thought it was really pretty. So that is all that I got from Amy. There was a lot. But also, Leading Men Fiber Arts was there, and I never pass up an opportunity to buy yarn from Steve and Andy. So I got this gradient kit from them in their showstopper. They're 20 grams each. The colorway is London Fog. I have this gradient kit in green. And I think it's called Lydia. I think the brand is Lydia. I am planning on putting them together to maybe make a stripy gradient polar thing, like starting with the darkest green and the darkest gray and coming to meet in the middle with the lightest, or vice versa. I haven't picked out a pattern yet or anything, but that was the plan for this. And then I picked up several skeins of their intermission, the showstopper intermission, to make more shorty socks. So I got Wilderness. I got I Will Always Love You. Who? Me? So funny. Fox Says What? And lastly, Don't Rain on My Parade. Like butter. And yeah, that's all I got. It was a lot, I know, I'm sorry, but I shouldn't need to buy any more yarn anytime soon. I have plenty. I had plenty before. Let's be honest with each other. I could not buy yarn for 5 years and still not run out. But I firmly believe that I have two hobbies. One of them is knitting, and the other one is collecting yarn. Or collecting knitting accoutrements, because I like all kinds of different things that have to do with knitting. So yeah, that is the stuff that I got. That is the things that happened to us recently. I kind of cut the New York thing short. We had a great time in New York. It was, for somebody who wasn't really raised, I was raised in the suburbs. I don't have a whole lot of experience with big cities. I grew up in the suburbs of LA, Los Angeles, but they were far enough. We were like an hour away, so we didn't go into LA proper very often. We more often went into like Anaheim to go to Disneyland and places like that. But LA was always dangerous, and I live in a suburb of Denver now, but Denver is not a huge, scary big city. Even though it's the capital of the state, it's not like LA. And then, New York is like the city, right? So I was really concerned about going there and being safe, and how are we going to get places? We don't have a lot of experience with taxis. We don't have any experience with Lyft or any of that kind of stuff. And so how are we going to get around? Even if we did know how to do taxis and Lyft or Uber, there's 8 of us. How are we going to fit into a single vehicle? So then we're like, well, we're going to have to take the subway. Well, the subway is scary. But we actually did really well. We subwayed everywhere or walked. We got 18,000 steps on days. And it was really a great experience. We got to see the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, and we went to the top of the Empire State Building. Well, the 102nd floor, which is the highest you can go. We went to Times Square. That was the only thing about the city I didn't care for. There was too many people, and it was too loud, and it's just like a huge billboard. I didn't care for Times Square, but I liked so much of the rest of the parts of the city. So yeah, I'd love to go back, because there were still so many things we didn't get to see. We went to Central Park, but we didn't get to see the Museum of Natural History and those kinds of things. We saw where John Lennon was shot. We saw the Continental from John Wick. I mean, we so many cool things. but I definitely would love to go back and see more because there's so much still left to see. So we are thinking about making another trip, maybe not with so many people, but at least with our family, Ron, me, and the girls, and seeing some of those other things, especially because Tatum was with her school, and so she didn't get to see a lot of the same things we saw. She went to the top of Rockefeller Center, and she had dinner at Carmine's, and she went to Times Square and did stuff like that, but she didn't get to see the Statue of Liberty. They were in rehearsals a lot, so there was a lot of that, but she did get to sing on stage at Carnegie Hall, which was amazing. It sounded so amazing. It was such a great show, and they did such a great job. We were so proud of them. There were several schools that were involved, but Tatum's school, two of the choirs from Tatum's school went, the all-girls and the all-boys choir. There are like five to seven different choirs at Tatum School, and 2, 3 of them are just entry level. You don't have to audition, and then there are 4 or 5 that are auditions, and those are the ones that go on to the tours. So the other, I think 3 or 4, there's like these ensembles that don't really count as, they counted in my huge list, but not for the tour. So the 2 choirs, the all male and the all female choir, they go on one tour, and then there's the top choir, and then some of the ensembles, they go on another tour. So they went to Spain, which was, I'm sure, an amazing trip. I would have loved Tatum to have that opportunity, but I wouldn't have wanted to pay for it because it was quite expensive. It was still expensive to send her to New York, but at least it was, a little bit less. But yeah, it was such a great opportunity to see her do that in Carnegie Hall, and I mean, how many times is your kid gonna play at Carnegie Hall, right? So yeah, it was a great experience. We were exhausted. We were only there for 4 days. We just ran through everything, and then came home and had to hit the ground running with work. But yeah, we are hoping to be able to go back and try it again with Tatum and do it as a family. And yeah, and then Loveland was great. Going to Yarn Fest was great. Yeah. And my birthday is in a week. Well, I guess a week and a half. It's on May 2nd. So that means I get to open up my box. The Jimmy Beam's Wool birthday box that I showed you guys in my last podcast. I'm going to open that on the 1st, and be able to enjoy that. I will hopefully be able to post at least, I don't know, something. I'll try to show you guys what I got in it. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna let you guys go. I have to edit this. It's like an hour long, so hopefully I can edit it down. And yeah, have a wonderful day. Hopefully you are enjoying your time and your spring, and happy knitting.